But let's talk about the game. It's on Sunday, 4:25 p.m. kickoff at Nissan Stadium. Titans are 5.5-point favorites, folks. 5.5 points. Last time these two teams met, the Giants were shut out, 17-0. Not good. Back in 2018. But Hank,
I had the unfortunate pleasure of sitting in the cold rain all day long that day.
Just about to say that. And now it's fun fact time with Hank and Dictor, or maybe not so fun fact time, but roll through the history of this series, will you, Hank?
So the Giants are 1-6 against the Titans. However, keep in mind, this is all since their move from being the Houston Oilers to the Tennessee Titans. And their lone win happened to come in 2014. I believe that was the week after the Jacksonville meltdown. They won that game 36-7. And, over the last two seasons, let me give you a really bad comparison between the Giants and the Titans, if I may. The Titans are 23-10 in the regular season. I'm not counting the two playoff games that they lost. Whereas the New York Giants, since 2017, have gone 22-59, which is actually tied with the New York Jets for the worst record in that span. And by the way, during that stretch, the Titans had consecutive 9-7 seasons. So, in other words, yuck. And 2016, I feel like I'm saying this every single week one as we start a new season. The Giants have only won one week one game since 2010. That was a game where they got very lucky in winning against the Dallas Cowboys. So hopefully things can change, but we'll see. As far as the spread for this game, I think the Titans being 5.5 favorites, that's a little too high, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Part of me is jealous. I'd like to go to this game, and I've always wanted to go to Nashville, number one.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
And number two, nobody shows up to Titans games. It's sad. It's not really the biggest football town for some reason. I don't understand why, at least at the professional level. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the college level, but they have trouble filling the seats at some games. I've noticed last year they were the 1 seed and there were some empty seats at that playoff game, which is kind of sad. They have one of the best head coaches in the league in Mike Vrabel. I do think the Titans are not overrated like a lot of people are saying this year, despite the loss of A.J. Brown. I did predict last night on my other show that the Titans will still win this division this season. But anyway, Sam, maybe one of your keys to the game for Sunday, if the Giants have any shot of winning this game, what do they have to do to offset the Titans?
I feel like this might be the most obvious key to the game, but oh my God, for the love of God, just contain Derrick Henry. Our run defense from last year, I believe, was ranked 32 in the league. We had a very poor run defense last year, and obviously this is one of the teams with a stronger run game having someone like Derrick Henry on this team. So I feel like obviously this defense is different. We have a new scheme, we have a new coordinator, we have a lot of new people. Hopefully they can contain Derrick Henry because obviously with the loss of A.J. Brown, this is going to be a more feet on the ground type of offense. So I feel like it's the most obvious key, but probably one of the most important ones too.
Very fair. I like it. Hank?
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say, but before I get into that, obviously there's really no such thing as stopping Derrick Henry, right? I mean, we can all agree that guy is a human battery.
I use the word contain. Contain.
Yes, contain is the right word. I agree, Sam. However, with that being said, part of containing Derrick Henry would be this: get off the field on third down. And I have a feeling that might be something that the Giants struggle with, just because it's going to be one of those things that come with, growing pains, but we'll see what happens. It's just, in my opinion, that is always a very, very important key in winning football games.
Absolutely. And I think if the Giants have any shot of winning, make Ryan Tannehill beat you. Make him beat you, because we know KayvonThibodeaux and Azeez Ojulari are not 100%. But if you contain Derrick Henry, you want to make the Titans, you want to put them behind the chains, right? You want to get them into 3rd and long. You want to make Tannehill have to throw the ball down the football field. The problem is Jihad Ward is going to have to step up huge. 68 games with 15 starts in his career, played for the Ravens. He knows the scheme. He had 3 sacks just a couple of years ago. He's a decent player. Tannehill threw 14 picks last year. He's not very mobile. So it leads me to think that the Giants do have a shot of keeping this one close, and I do think they'll be in the football game come the 4th quarter. The question is, will it be enough to stop the Tennessee Titans? And I think it comes down to protecting Daniel Jones, right? We saw in the preseason, Jones had a clean pocket often in the limited reps that he got. But we alluded to it before. The strength of the Titans defense is the trenches. Denico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons. I just think those two are going to be really difficult players to defend. Simmons had 8.5 sacks last season from the interior defensive line position. That is darn impressive. And Denico Autry had 9. That's 17.5 combined sacks from essentially 2 defensive tackles. Those are Aaron Donald-like numbers combined with 2 players. So they're good. They're very good. And they're not well known because they play for the Titans, right? That's why not many people know who they are. But I think Mark Lewinsky is going to be challenged. John Feliciano, Ben Bredesen. I'm more concerned about them than Evan Neal, actually, if I think about it, because Harold Landry's out for the season and Andrew Thomas has Bud Dupree. I don't think Bud Dupree is going to move across. Neal may get some reps against him, but we'll see. Is there anything else that we missed? Anything else we want to talk about as far as keys go? Obviously,
I had one more I meant to say before, and you mentioned it because there's going to be some people who are limited with this team. The only thing is that, like, I just really hope, like, someone like Kayvon, who is limited and has injuries, like, I just hope that these rookies know that even though this is the first week of their season, their first NFL start, like, they know their limits and they're not going to push themselves to the point where they get even more hurt or even more injured, because we've seen that over these last few years of injuries being very detrimental to our team, and seeing some of these guys, say like, oh, it's fine, or he can play, or he can do this, and not obviously getting hurt some more. So I would say just hoping that these guys know their limits and that injuries are not going to, like, literally plague us this year.
I agree 100%, Sam. It's already concerning. There are some players out for the year due to injury, but that's why we play the games. Have to wait and see what happens. Let's move into some players to watch. Hank, why don't you give me one player on the Giants and one player on the Titans that you think could be a game changer this weekend?
Well, okay, for starters, one player that I'm going to watch for the Titans. Let's start with Derrick Henry, because, as I said, and we have long established, the guy is a human battering ram, provided, of course, he's healthy. Last year, he had 937 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. This was in a season which he missed the second half due to injury. And, of course, side note, ruined my fantasy team with that injury, but that's neither here nor there. As for the New York Giants, I am going to go with Ben Bredesen, because he is going to be going up, like you said, against Simmons and Autry, and he will have his hands full. He played 8 games in one start last year, and, you look at every single player that suited up at guard for the Giants, they average 2 pressures per game, so it will be interesting to see how Bredesen does against the Aaron Donald combo, as you alluded to. So let's knock on wood that it goes well.
All right. So you did Bredesen and Henry. Okay.
My
Sam.
namesake, yeah.
You're right.
So I'm gonna go with on the Titans. I'm gonna end up going with Robert Woods only because he's someone new on this team and we don't know how he fits into this offense yet. And obviously we know Robert Woods is someone who was very good on the Rams and unfortunately did have that injury. So I'm going to just be watching him just to see how he fits into this offense now and how he's going to, um, work past this injury that he just had because we know he's a good wide receiver. And while Tannehill might not be the best quarterback in the league, if he can get the ball into a good receiver's hands, they're a good offense. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on him. And I gotta, on the Giants, gotta keep it easy, gotta keep it, right where it needs to be with our pal Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones, we've talked about this for like over a year now. The prove it year, we said it was last year, and like this year, like literally is the prove it year. I want to see what he's like with this new regime. I want to see what he's like with this new offensive line. I want to see what he's like with some of these new like weapons on all sides of the ball. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on our friend DJ. It's this is it. We've been defending this kid for how many years now? This is it. If this isn't it, I like. There's nothing else that we can do. So want him to do good. I want to see Daniel Jones be the guy, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think it's important for Daniel Jones to be able to get past that first progression. I think he carries more weight than people think he does in this game because you look at the Titans secondary, it's young. Outside of Kevin Byard, it's not great. You have cornerbacks in Christian Fulton, and then the other one is Roger McCreary, who's a rookie out of Auburn. So the Giants may have young corners, but so do the Titans. Their corners are even younger. My player to watch for the Titans is Treylon Burks. He'll likely be matching up against Aaron Robinson, which is a mismatch advantage Tennessee. Excuse me, even though that Burks is a rookie. He has been poised as one of the top rookie receivers in this class, had over 1,100 yards last year at Arkansas with 11 touchdowns. That's double 11s for him. I think he's a really elusive route runner that can take the top off of defense, and he is really good at creating separation as well. Again, rookie contract, cost control deal, a lot less money than for a guy like A.J. Brown, when essentially the Titans are trying to still win but fix some patches here and there. I won't use the term rebuild with them. But for the Giants, I'm going to go with Austin Calitro because I'm interested to see how he fares out as linebacker number 2. What happens if Derrick Henry gets past that first level, which will happen often, more than likely? It's down to Tate Crowder and Austin Calitro to bring him down. So Austin Calitro has a lot of weight on his shoulders. This is his first start on the NFL in over 3 years. He's been on 5 different teams over the last 5 seasons. And this was a guy who just had 6 tackles last year. He might end up breaking that on Sunday. Who knows? I'm really happy for this guy, but he needs to play well. Otherwise, he's in trouble. Micah McFadden is knocking on the door. He's the future of this linebacking core, in my opinion. This was the first linebacker that Joe Shane drafted as part of this regime. So you bet that he's going to be here to stay. So I'm interested to see what happens there with that. So those are our players to watch. Injury report for the Giants. KayvonThibodeaux and Azeez Ojulari both limited with knee and calf injuries, respectively. Sterling Shepard limited with the Achilles issue he's been recovering from, but we all know he's likely to play. Jihad Ward has an undisclosed situation, but he's been practicing in full. And Dean Belton, the broken collarbone he's been recovering from. For the Titans, it's a bunch of no-name players. Lonnie Johnson and Elijah Molden both dealing with groin issues. That's interesting. Chance Campbell limited with the knee, and Jamarco Jones limited with the triceps issue. And fun fact, this is the Adoree Jackson revenge game for the Giants.
I completely forgot Adoree was on the Titans.
My hot take of the week, Adoree Jackson gets an interception off of his former cornerback, Ryan Tannehill.
I love that.
I'm
on board with that.
So
definitely see it.
We move into our game predictions now. Sam, I'll start with you here on this one. We've talked about the ins and outs of this team. You know, the Titans have a good offensive line anchored by Taylor Lewan, and we mentioned how concerning Derrick Henry is. And that's probably going to play a primary factor in this game. Does it play a factor into your outcome as well?
So I hate to be, the one that goes against the Giants on the first week back on Big Blue Avenue, but this is a tough opponent to go up against week one. Like, this is not some walk in the park, team that we could just, possibly get a win out of. They went to the playoffs last year. I mean, they choked in the playoffs, but that's beside the point. This is a tough team, and the only, I would say, shining light that I could see with this is the Titans love to keep a close game. I saw a stat that said that they are 6-2 in one-score games last year. So obviously, it's very possible that this is going to stay close. And it might just come down to a field goal. So I do think the Titans are going to win, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game for the Giants. I'm saying 27-24. And again, we'll be rooting for him, but it's a toughie to come out for week one.
Yeah, so as far as my prediction, sorry if I'm allowed to go next. I just spoke up.
All good. No. You're next, Hank. You're next
Okay,
up.
well, spoiler alert, it's not going to be what Noah Dibler says. Thank you very much. But
Screw this guy. He's just trolling, man. Don't listen to him.
I think it'll be a very close game. So in other words, I am definitely taking the Giants to cover the spread if I am a betting man. However, do I think the Giants will win? Unfortunately, no. I think it'll be a very low scoring game. I think, Ryan Tannehill is going to have his moments where he makes mistakes, but unfortunately, and, as I said at the beginning of the show, Rome wasn't built in a day. I think this is a game where you'll probably see improvements with the Giants, that they'll be able to keep this a close game. However, not enough to where they're going to win. That being said, I think it'll be a low scoring game. My final score for you, Titans 19, Giants 16. So hopefully I'm wrong with that, though. Sort of, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be a close game. I think we've all acknowledged that, and that speaks volumes to the direction this team is headed in. Unfortunately, I also think the Titans are going to win this game. Both of you have the Titans winning by 3. I have the Titans winning by 4. I think the Giants will score 20 points, but I think the Titans score 24. And I say that because I think it's going to be a field position game. The Giants aren't going to have a great field position early on, in my opinion, but there's something in my gut telling me that the Giants could possibly squeak this one out. Like, do either of you have, like, obviously, like, I'm not picking the Giants. If I was a betting man, I would not pick the Giants, but something inside is telling me that we might win this game.
Yeah.
Like, unexpectedly win this game,
Yeah.
which would be great. I'd love to see it, and I'll be rooting my ass off for the Giants on Sunday, but there's like 5% of me that wants to pick the Giants, but I just can't do it.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Actually, you and I
I
were in the
can
same boat.
definitely see that.
Tom, believe it or not, you and I were actually in the same boat, and I was flirting with the idea of doing that. But my track record lately with picking the Giants. I can't pick them to win if, like, I have that small gut feeling that wants it to happen in an upset. So I'm not going to do that. But with that being said, I talked to Johnny about this on an episode of Game On, not just during our segment, but when we talked about the NFL as a whole. I talked to Dom about this, like, on the side. They all say the same thing. This is not a game that, like, is really a sure thing for the Titans. There is a chance they could come out, but based on recent history and, like I said, because it's still a rebuild, I just don't know if it's going to happen in week one. But if it were later in the season, I probably might feel slightly more comfortable picking the G-men. as strange as that might sound.
Also, Noah, thank you for telling me that Nick D's done with his recording. That's much appreciated. I'm glad you're back here with us watching the show. I don't appreciate your 49-6 comment, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you put up with my ass for an hour and a half last night. Look, ultimately, I think the Giants are going to be competitive. We didn't even mention Kenny Golladay once tonight. I feel like he does acknowledge some recognition, but quite frankly, why should we even waste a breath on him tonight?
We didn't talk about Kadarius either.
Yeah, I mean, because these guys have been non-factors. They've been non-existent all preseason. Like, what is there to talk about these two at the moment? Nothing.
I'm very intrigued about what we do play the Lions this year, right?
We do.
So Kenny Golladay revenge game.
There's more to talk about with like David Sills than those guys.
Yeah.
And all due respect to David Sills, I think he's going to contribute this year. I think this is the year that he's going to catch 20, 25 passes and score a touchdown or two. I do believe that. I mean, he did score 18 touchdowns his senior year at West Virginia. But last segment of the show, because we're about to have a football game starting, folks, and we want you all to watch it. We're going to watch it as well. Our 2022 record prediction for the New York Football Giants. Hank, you're on the clock.
I don't think my prediction is as optimistic as you guys. I have the Giants going 6-11. I think you'll probably see little signs that change is going to be on the horizon, but again, it's not going to happen right away. But I think you'll definitely see a little bit of improvements in the Dable era. So I would say 6 wins. I would say probably the 5-7 range is a realistic possibility, but for me, I'm taking 6.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being generous. But looking at the schedule, I know that we can split with our division, with each of those games. And there are definitely a few winnable games within this schedule. I'm going 7-10. I'd just like to see this transitional year be something positive, like you said, Hank, like seeing the change that we want to see. Like be the change you wish to see in the world. Gandhi. So yeah, I'm being hopeful, but I definitely feel like it's not completely unrealistic to say 7-10.
It's not, because I went over it with my coworker today who commented before in the show. The Giants have, in my opinion, 6 games that they'll probably win. And you always win one game every year that you don't expect to win. So I just threw that in there as well, and that's how I got the number 7. So I also think the Giants are going 7-10. I would not be shocked if we went 3-13-1, Noah. The Giants usually don't end in ties. It's either really surprising or really not surprising with the G-men. I don't think the Giants have had a tie in the new millennium. So,
I think the last time they tied would have been the game against Washington where
10-5-1, right?
I think it was 1997, the game where Gus Frerotte banged his head on the wall and got injured.
Yes, and the Giants made the playoffs that year at 10-5-1.
Fun fact, they also swept the division that year.
And you know who was head coach?
Jim Fossil.
The man who never got a second chance at head coaching in the NFL, sadly, and should have, by the way, have. Never thought I'd hear a Gandhi quote.
No, I'm just here to just be the spice. I'm just here to bring in Gandhi quotes. That's my job.
But seriously, folks, I do think this is a step in the right direction for Big Blue. We have the comment from John here. Says, thanks for filling me in on Giants off-season changes. Hopefully, with the O-line improvements, Saquon can stay healthy. Have a good night.
Thanks for tuning in, John.
To you as well. We'll stay live for about another minute and a half. Noah says, as a history major, I approve. That's funny. Quick reminder, folks, tonight's show is sponsored by BetUS. You can sign up with our promo code below at Join125. Again, that is Join125. Get a 125% sign-up bonus. Get all your live betting from your mobile device, anywhere, anytime. That is America's #1 favorite sports book, BetUS, where the game begins. If you have any last-minute bets you want to place between the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams tonight, now is the time. You have less than, 10 minutes? So get at it. Sam, Hank, any final thoughts here before we sign off on this show?
Just want to say, so happy football's back. I am I think we speak for everyone when we say we're super happy to have football back. We're excited to have Giants football back. I'm excited to watch the Bills tonight, and got to throw in that Go Big Blue as per usual.
September and then into October. What a great time of the year. I got the Yankees in a pennant stretch drive, and now I got the Giants coming back. Both of them will probably be giving me gray hair and agita, but that is besides the point. The main point is, with football season being back, I am happy to be back on Big Blue Avenue, talking with both of you guys. Tom and Sam, always a pleasure. Let's go, Big Blue.
Absolutely. Steve says, good to have the gang back together. Noah, I'm not happy. The Falcons are back. We're happy the Falcons are back because it's a team that we know will be better than. But, folks, finally, you want to give us a follow? There it is, scrolling across our ticker below. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter for up-to-date content featuring the New York Football Giants. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.